Good evening, and welcome to the Engaging Families with Career Exploration using myBlueprint live stream. We're thrilled to have HDSB secondary families joining us for tonight's session to learn more about the individual pathway planning tool of the Halton District School Board. My name is Lisa Galley, and I'm an instructional program leader for secondary school programs, overseeing student supports and regional programs. I'm joined tonight by Brad Booker from myBlueprint, and I'll allow him to introduce himself in a little bit. As we always do in the Halton District School Board, we'll begin by acknowledging the land and territory. We begin by acknowledging the land and our responsibility to care for and respect all that provides us with life. This land upon which HDSB is situated is on the ancestral, treaty, and tidal lands of the Anishinaabe Ojibwe Michizageek Nation, now known as the Mississaugas of the Credit. Michizageek territory in the past and present continues to host both Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples. The HDSB is committed to continuous knowledge building with respect to actions that address and resolve the ongoing impacts of colonialism. We do this by learning and understanding the true history, treaty obligations, duties and responsibilities, and Indigenous rights, while actively maintaining mutually beneficial relationships and collectively respecting for and caring for the land. And the connection that I wanted to make this evening is around two very important organizations that provide post-secondary support for Indigenous students, not only in the Halton District School Board, but certainly across the province. And specifically, that is the Aboriginal Post-Secondary Information Program, or APSIP, and INSPIRE. APSIP is a collective recruitment of representatives from colleges, universities, and Indigenous learning institutes in Ontario and Quebec. And from its beginning, it now has over 30 post-secondary institutes collaborating and planning a 12-week post-secondary education tour. And one of these stops on the tour happened just a few weeks ago at Hayden, Dr. Frank J. Hayden Secondary School. It was an amazing experience. I was able to attend, and it really provided students and families in our board with the opportunity to learn more about programs that encourage Indigenous study, as well as Indigenous student support services. INSPIRE is an Indigenous national charity that invests in the education of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people for the long-term benefit of those individuals, their families, communities, and Canada. With the support of their partners, they disperse financial awards, deliver programs, and share resources with the goal of increasing graduation rates for Indigenous students. And I wanted to share both of them as well as the websites to ensure that our families and students in the HDSB are aware of these two fantastic organizations. It seemed like a perfect fit given our pathway planning focus for tonight. So we wanted to remind you, as you would have received in the messenger, that you can submit questions during tonight's live stream. You'll see a bit.ly there on your screen that you can go into. It takes you to a Google form at any point, bit.ly/myblueprintquestion, or you can take a picture with your phone and the QR code will also take you to the form. We've received some questions already that we will be addressing throughout the night, but certainly as you're listening tonight and questions come up, please feel free to submit questions, and we've left some time at the end of our presentation to be able to address as many of those questions as possible. I also wanted to remind you that you're able to turn on closed captioning in English while you're watching the live stream tonight. As you may remember, there will be a recording of tonight's live stream, and you'll be able to access it using the same link that you used to access this live stream. You'll find the link on the HDSB website myBlueprint page when the recording is posted. And as you're watching the recording, you may choose to translate what you're hearing in other languages through the closed captioning function, that's available when viewing the recording. So why are we here tonight? Well, certainly I hope that this graphic may be familiar to you, and if not you, then I also hope that it's certainly familiar to your students. This graphic is the graphic of education and career life planning. And we know that this process takes place throughout a student's high school career, and certainly even before. Through the experiences they have, the courses they take, the extracurriculars that they pursue, volunteer opportunities students try on, and so on, they begin to form an understanding of who they are and what they want for their future. And specifically, you'll see the 4 questions of education and career life planning are: who am I? What are my opportunities? Who do I want to become? And what is my plan for achieving my goal? Every school in the Halton District School Board provides targeted opportunities for students to be able to answer these questions and to begin to plan for their first post-secondary destination. So how do students answer these questions? Well, I've addressed some of this already, but you'll see lots of different opportunities for students to explore who they are and what they want for their future. Again, that happens through the courses they take, through the specific activities that are planned by both the board as well as their schools, when they participate in specialized programs like co-op and SHISM, OYAP, and dual credit, their extracurricular involvement, as well as their community activities, and certainly through all of the connections and relationship building that they do as they collaborate with the variety of educators in their lives that help them discover what they want for their future. So many opportunities are provided to help them sort this out. The individual pathways plan is really a record of student learning, and it helps to document a student's pathway exploration over grades 7 to 12. In grades 7 and 8, the IPP process really emphasizes the student's transition from elementary to secondary school, whereas in grades 9 to 12, it really helps to emphasize planning for that student's first post-secondary destination. And we say first because we recognize that many students will pursue more than one post-secondary pathway over the course of their lifetime. So that really brings us to why we're here tonight, and that is, what is myBlueprint? Well, myBlueprint is the primary individual pathways planning tool of students in the Halton District School Board from grades 7 to 12. It provides them with the opportunity to do so many different things, and I'm not going to steal Brad's thunder. I'm going to let him tell you a little bit more about this, but it really is such a comprehensive application that allows students to answer those 4 questions that we just talked about. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Brad Booker from myBlueprint to tell you more about how, as a family, you can engage with myBlueprint. Brad?
Hey, thanks a lot, Lisa. I appreciate the introduction, and some key themes that as I get sharing my presentation, we're going to hear a lot about, like those 4 questions of who am I, what are my opportunities, who do I want to become, and what's my plan for achieving my goals, as well as individual pathway planning. So I'm happy to be here. I'm thankful that folks on the call took the time to join. I know in my household that we've got soccer, scouts, there's all sorts of things in the evening. So prioritizing joining this session tonight, I hope that it's going to be worthwhile in coming away with resources that you can use to support your student. So without further ado, this is me. My name is Brad Booker. I work for myBlueprint and Partner Success, but my role with myBlueprint is to support school boards all across Canada with engaging students, families, educators in navigating resources for pathway planning. So I'm incredibly passionate about supporting students, especially through opportunities to explore themselves and through experiential opportunities as well. So chances to volunteer or to participate in a co-op experience. I think that those are excellent opportunities, but I'm also a big proponent of application of those opportunities. How can students leverage resources afterwards to discover how they can apply those experiences to the next steps in their lives? So in terms of an introduction, the game plan here for tonight is I'm going to share some live demos as well as some overviews of features that are available to all of your students and available to you as well as families and caregivers supporting your student. So I'm going to give a quick introduction to pathway planning and piggyback a little bit on Lisa's slides there about individual pathway planning, and then I'm going to fly right into a myBlueprint account and show you the features and the resources that are available to you, and hopefully build some excitement about supporting some of those conversations and also addressing some of those questions. They seem simple on the surface. Who am I? What are my opportunities? But they certainly require resources and reflection and support at home. So, going to share those features that can certainly help with those questions. Wanted to put this up here, and I mentioned, and I wanted to also acknowledge the time that you're taking to be here in the evening. I know that there's competing competing items, dinner, Netflix, all of the extracurriculars, but I want to highlight the influences that our students are facing in terms of navigating their pathway planning. And I just put this graphic up because when we think about what impact our students have on them in terms of their next steps and their pathway planning, there's a lot of things that are out there. I've mentioned things like my passion for experiential learning. So experiences have a big component. Self-awareness, addressing who am I. Students researching different opportunities and maybe at local institutions or local employers. Obviously, the work that we do in the schools and the educators, the teachers that students have are very impactful, as well as their peers and the social community that surrounds our student. But there's one that I missed here, and that's parents and family, caregivers. The adults in our students' lives are the number one influence, and this is shown by research, and it's not particularly surprising when you think that parents and family. It's on a per hour basis. There's a lot of conversations. There's also a lot of experiences and exposure that they have at home. So parents are the number one influence on students when it comes to career and life planning. So that's why I'm super excited that you're here this evening, because I hope to kind of put a couple of tools in your toolbox that can support conversations with your student and help with that transition process. Just quickly about my blueprint, and Lisa in her introduction mentioned that my blueprint is Halton District School Board's tool for supporting student pathway planning. And as a platform, we're built on the mission of empowering students to make informed decisions about their future. And I put informed in here, but it's also it can be a challenge because we just saw that slide about all of the influences. So where does that information come from, and how can we ensure that it's accurate and it's personalized? So that's why we've built the platform of my blueprint, is to support students in accessing up to date and personalized information. And what students will find in Education Planner, I'm just going to pull out a couple of highlights here now. But like I mentioned, the bulk of the next probably 30 minutes or so is going to be diving into student accounts and sharing some of these features. But this is where students are planning out their courses for high school, planning out those courses to ensure that they're on track for graduation, but then also to apply those courses for what's the impact of the courses I'm taking in terms of my pathway eligibility for post-secondary. Also, tools for students to document experiences in digital portfolios, but also we've got great tools for resumes and cover letters. This is something that is becoming more and more important as the the world in front of our students changes at such a rapid rate. Students are required to prove their experience more so than maybe in the past when a resume and cover letter would suffice. Now students need to be able to demonstrate the experiences that they've had and the skills that they've developed from those experiences. And then also resources to support students, families with up to date information. So I'll also towards the end here, I'll share how you can access a family account and support your student as well. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into a live demo and provide an overview, and then I'm just going to cherry pick a few features that I think will be particularly helpful for families. And then, like I mentioned, I'll switch over into a family account and provide some insights for key takeaways, so that after the call tonight, you can support your student with some additional information. And I'd say that key takeaways. I know that the kind of the holidays are approaching. We're gonna maybe have some more time with contact with family, and we know that students are faced on a regular basis with the question of, what are you going to do after high school? And it's a really challenging question for students to sometimes navigate. So the tools that I'm going to share in here are going to be really helpful to address those types of questions, to start those explorations. So I've logged in now as a sample student. So this is my demo account. So I'm not in any real student account, but I'm going to go through as if I were a real grade 9 student making plans for grade 10. When students log into their My Blueprint account, the first thing they see is this banner right out the front that says "Complete your IPP tasks." And this, as Lisa mentioned, is individual pathway plan. And so this is where students have some prompts so that they've got some direction. Students are accessing myBlueprint in Halton District School Board on a very regular basis. It's connected with a lot of classroom learning. It's also where they plan their high school courses. But sometimes we see students are in here on the evenings, weekends, holidays, Christmas, summer breaks. And so this is a great way that students have some prompts. They've got some direction so that independently they've got some ideas as to what they could do in here. Plan my courses for grade 10. Cool, I could do that. Add some extracurricular activities to my resume, favoriting occupations, completing surveys. So I can see I've got lots of prompts in here that support students in their discovery. What you'll also notice, and your students certainly have as well, is there's a point value associated with completing these tasks. So this is kind of an exciting incentive for students as they complete these tasks, they can earn points, and these points are for real prizes. So students can enter gift card draws and be eligible to win prizes based on the points that they've completed. So a little bit of gamification to support students in their pathway planning journey. While I'm in here and sharing the prizes, I'll also highlight scholarships here as well. So if your student is nearing graduation and approaching applications to post-secondary institutions, through my blueprint, there's a massive scholarships available. As we're a Canadian organization, there's a lot of companies Canada-wide that will host scholarships through my blueprint. So students can apply directly in my blueprint to be eligible for scholarships. There's nothing in here at the moment, but come March and April, this is well stocked with thousands of dollars for students to enter for scholarships. So back on my dashboard here, I've got these tasks. They're really helpful. But what students might want to do for starting in my blueprint is heading over on this left-hand side. This is where we'll find some of the main features available to students. And if you remember that graphic that Lisa shared earlier, who am I was the top centered question. And the reason that is the case is because in pathway planning, self-awareness is a really important first step. And helping our students explore things like their values, their strengths, the things that they're interested in. This can be a really helpful jumping off point for supporting student exploration. So I'm going to head into who am I and just give a real quick overview of what students will find in this area. In Who Am I, we'll find a series of personal surveys, learning styles, personalities, interests, knowledge. And these surveys are fun and easy for students to complete. So as an example here, I can see that I've got the personality survey already started, and I can click in and resume this survey. And you can see it's quite student-friendly language, which describes you more closely. I'm comfortable socializing in large groups. Well, tonight's a good example of that, I suppose. So strongly agree. When working in a group, it's most important that everyone does their job. Yeah, absolutely. So you can get the gist for how the surveys work. When students complete surveys, they get a report that can give them some helpful tips as to, hey, based on the results of your survey, here are some tips that might be encouraging for how students could exercise different study habits or different occupations to explore. And that's that next step that I'll share here as well. When students have completed a number of these surveys, they can match these results. And so for students who are kind of thinking, hey, I'm not too sure what all is out there, starting with the surveys, understanding themselves a little bit better, it's a great spot to dive in and to start some occupation exploration. So I've matched my results based on the feedback or the results of my surveys. I can now see, hey, here's a list of different occupations that might be a good fit for me. So kind of cool for students that could use maybe just a little prompt as to what might be a good thing to start exploring. And a lot of times students maybe didn't know that there were certain occupations out there. So this can really broaden the scope and the awareness. I didn't know that a diagnostic medical sonographer was a thing. So cool for students to understand a little bit more about what this job looks like. So I'll get into some of the occupation details here a little bit later, but really cool for students to be able to start that exploration based on their personal results. What's also helpful is that you can see this blue Get Started button here next to each one of these occupations. What this means is get started with a compatibility survey. So this is a really cool thing for students that if they have something of interest, like a veterinarian technician, well, what actually do veterinarian technicians do? So take and develop diagnostic radiographs using X-ray equipment. Is that something I would like to do? No, not really. I just want to care for animals. Discuss medical health of pets with clients. maybe that sounds all right. But you get the idea here that as students are starting to identify some occupations, the compatibility surveys can really help students to hone in on, hey, are these the type of things, the tasks in this job that I might be interested in actually doing? So this is a great point of entry to start some conversations with students about, hey, what based on my assessments, my interests, my personality type, what are some occupations that might be a good fit? And then let's have a look at those compatibility surveys and see, is this actually a job that I like the sounds of the tasks? So a helpful spot to start. Where I'm going to head next, and this is the spot that right now, as course selection is underway, this is where your student is likely spending a fair bit of time, and that's in the high school tab. This is where students map out their courses, and it's also where they submit their classes as well. So I'm going to give some information, just an overview of what we're looking at here. In high school, we've got this grid set up. Each column is a different grade level. So I can see grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. And depending on the grade level that your student is currently in, you are going to see the columns update based on the current year and next year. And what's really great with myBlueprint and Halton District School Board is that we take student data and we make it visible for your student and for you as their parent caregiver. So what I mean by that is, if your student is currently in, say, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12, you are going to see their previous transcript details automatically populate right here in the high school plan. So if you're ever curious about, well, how many credits does my student have? What grade did they get in a certain class? You're able to pop into their high school plan and have a look and see what progress they're making towards graduation. So this really helps to build some ownership for your student that, hey, I've got a plan. I can visualize what that success is going to look like. And this is also where students map out their courses for future years. So in my sample student here, I'm a grade 9 student. I can see my current year, and these are the courses that I'm currently enrolled in. Students can't edit these, they can't change them, because this is locked based on the courses that they're actually in. What they can edit, though, are their future years. And so in this case, I've got this next column here. Grade 10 is my next year. And this is where students are able to add and modify their courses. So as an example here, I just deleted a math class. But as you can see, when I remove courses, I've got these boxes that populate with the types of subjects that I need to fill into those boxes. So if I click into the mathematics, I'll be able to see the different math courses that are available. I can sort by grade, and this helps me to filter down based on the types of classes that I want to add. Students can click in, they get an overview of what this course is all about, what are the prerequisites, and if it looks like the right course for me, I can go ahead and click add course. You can see also that when I deleted both the math and the science class, I got some errors that came up. And this is also helpful to support students in navigating, what are the requirements that I need further on in my education planning. So because I got rid of that grade 10 science class, I'm no longer eligible for biology in grade 11. So it's good for students to see, okay, I better make sure that I get that grade 10 science class in here. And once I've added those classes in, I can make sure that my plan is up to date and I no longer have any errors. When students are submitting their courses in my blueprint and my demo account, I don't have the course selection open at the moment, but when it is open for your student, there'll be a box up here that has a 3-step process. Number 1 is add courses, number 2 is review your selections, and number 3 is submit. So it's really easy for students to add their courses, and they're adding them based on the big picture, based on the previous courses that they've completed, and they can also plan ahead. And this is the next part that I'm going to dive into with a little bit of detail here. I'm planning for grade 10, and that's great. Those are the courses that will be submitted to my school, and this is where I'll be. Where those my interests will be in there for my counselors to work on things like my schedule for next year. So that's a really helpful spot. But what's also a helpful thing for students to be encouraged to do is plan out courses all the way through to grade 12. And this is something that, if you're having some planning conversations with your student, this is a really great exercise to do. And what I mean by that is, grade 11 and grade 12, that might seem distant. But what students can do in my blueprint is they can kind of play around with this grid. They can add and subtract courses. They can see all of the courses that are available at their school. And what you'll notice here with my plan is that I've planned out grade 10, that's totally fine. But grade 11 and 12, you'll notice that in grade 11, I've got a 4 credit co-op in here. I've also got a ton of courses in my grade 12 year, biology, earth science, all sorts of exciting science classes. And what this can help students realize is that I do have room to fit in all sorts of really cool programming, that I can do credits in co-op, I could do SHSM, I could do all sorts of really neat programs. And when I map things out, not only can I visualize that success, but I can also verify it here as well. So this graduation indicator, this is an awesome spot for ensuring that all of those graduation requirements are met. And as we know in Ontario, there's lots of different requirements that students need to meet. And here it maps everything out. So I can see that green check indicating that I've either got it in my plan or I've earned it as well. So for your student, as they progress through the grades, you'll see this earned column populate with the courses that they've got completed. So really helpful for verifying that, hey, I've got a plan that works, and build that confidence that if I stick with this plan, I'm going to be all set for graduation. A couple of other things to note here as well. In Halton District School Board, there's going to be an additional box here that says regional programs. And this is an awesome spot for students to develop an awareness of the different types of programs that are available. Those programs being specialist high skills major, we often call it SHISM, but this is a really cool opportunity for students to package courses and experiences and certificates to really elevate the skills that they're developing and the experiences that they're having in high school, as well as Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, so OYAP. This is where students can learn about, hey, what are the programs and opportunities available to get into the skilled trades, and lastly, programs like dual credit and other career awareness programs. So for Halton District School Board students, you will see that additional box. You can learn about the different programs, and even for SHSM, see a comparison of the courses I have in my plan versus the requirements to complete that course. So it's really cool for families and students to check that out and see how you're progressing towards those requirements. But the last thing that I want to highlight here in our topic of today is pathways and making plans, is this pathway eligibility feature. This is an amazing tool that as students are mapping out their high school plan, so adding courses, subtracting courses, making sure they're on track to graduate, what this pathway eligibility does is it takes the courses in the student high school plan and it automatically syncs those courses with the entrance requirements of every single post-secondary institution in Canada. So maybe one more time, takes all these courses and tells students which programs they meet the eligibility requirements for. So instead of looking at brochures and Google searches and trying to figure out, okay, well, what are all the programs I could get into, this tool automatically updates it for students. So as soon as a student deletes or adds a course in, they can refresh this eligibility and they can see in real time what are the programs that are available to me. And then what's even better is not only the numbers, and I can see here that I've got over 6,000 different pathways and programs available to me. I can click in on any one of these blue numbers, and then I get redirected into our post-secondary feature. Now I can see here's the 2,000 different university programs that I have available to me based on my high school plan. So this is a really cool way for students to get excited about, all right, I've got my high school plan mapped out. Now let's go exploring. Let's see what's out there. This I'll dive into the features here a little bit in some more depth. In the post-secondary tool here, I've got some filters, and I've currently got the filter of my high school plan. So this is syncing all of my courses with university, but maybe I want to stay only in Ontario. Or maybe I have a certain institution in mind and I want to see, okay, what programs would I be eligible for at a certain university or college? So students can further refine and start exploring based on these filters. So now by filtering out all of the other provinces, I've kind of lowered things down or tuned things into 1,000 programs that are available to me. I could also use keyword searches as well. So if I wanted to find something specific, I could put that in. But now that I've got these programs available to me, I can see they're all alphabetical order. And this is a really maybe an important thing for me to note is that as a company, myBlueprint doesn't have any advertising. There's no third party that influences the programs that students see. This is everything in Canada, so students can see, as you can see right now, everything is in here as alphabetical order. So if I was curious about the anthropology program at McMaster, or maybe I wanted to compare it with the one at York, if I click in here, I can see a side-by-side comparison of these two institutions and these two anthropology programs. So what's the program all about? What's the length of the program, the tuition per year? I get all sorts of great details. Is co-op an option? Yeah, I even have details on what's the meal plan cost. So this is really helpful for students and families as you're making some obviously really important decisions about those next steps. And like Lisa said, that first option outside of high school, this is really important information for us to have. The last piece is really interesting as well. If I do this program, the anthropology program at McMaster, what are some of the jobs I could do after this program? So if I complete this 3-year program, what are the jobs I could do? And if I click in here, I'll load up our occupation feature and I can start exploring the jobs. But before I get into that, I just want to share a couple of other features here about the institutions. Students can click in and check out the requirements. Right now, I'm comparing two side by side, but for any institution, students can click in, check out the requirements, and these are all based on their high school plan. So I can see that green check indicating that I meet the entrance requirements based on my high school plan. I can also see some additional information like what's the required average or any additional notes or other requirements to get into this program. Another cool feature is in myBlueprint, because we're a Canadian company, if there's an out of province institution, myBlueprint will automatically update those entrance requirements based on Ontario course codes. So what I mean by that is if the student is interested in a program in British Columbia, instead of trying to figure out, well, what is the English 12 equivalent in British Columbia, all of that is sorted out for you and for your student automatically. So really helpful to have that information. And then if students see a program that they're particularly interested in, they can favorite it, they can pin it to a portfolio to have a look at later. You'll also notice this little chat icon. This connects students directly with that institution as well. So if they have a question, they can click in on this little icon and it shoots a message directly to recruitment or admissions at that institution. So this is a really helpful workflow for students. Is I can create a high school plan, then I can start looking at what are some post-secondary programs and opportunities that are available to me, and then start exploring some related occupations and find out is this a good fit for me. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just share what that step looks like. So as an example, I'll just click in on advertising here at OCAD. So similar information, I get the tuition, all of those details, and again related occupations. So I'm eligible for this program, but if I enroll in it, what would be some jobs I could do after I complete it? Okay, advertising manager, sales rep. Let's click in. Let's check out what an advertising manager does. So now I can see an overview of the type of work. I also get some information about, okay, what is the outlook, what does the salary look like. I can check out some videos on this type of job. Can also have a look at important skills. And this is so important, like I mentioned off the top, about students needing to document and be able to share their skills as they're developing them. So this is a great opportunity for students to start exploring occupations and then start thinking about, you know what, I can start working on creativity, decision making skills, organization skills, and this will be applicable for me in a job of interest. What's also helpful here too is we can find some very specific Outlook information. So in Ontario, I can see it's a 2 out of 3 stars, but you know what? I can click in and this will take us directly into the Government of Canada, the Job Bank, and we can find some regional data as well. So if I'm curious about certain regions of Ontario, I can see here's the outlook for advertising manager types of positions. So really helpful for students and families again to have this long range planning and forecasting of, is the job that you're interested in right now, does it look like it's going to have need in the next 5 years? So cool to have this information as well as estimated salaries for all of the jobs. The last piece here as well is the do I match. So if students have done this process, I shared off the top about those who am I surveys. I could click into this do I match now. It's going to ask me 10 questions based on an advertising manager to see, you know what, is this a good fit based on the type of tasks that the average advertising manager would conduct in their day. So the process that I just shared with the group here now, we call it forwards planning, where we start with high school. This is where students are mapping things out, submitting courses. But let's build a plan that ensures that they're on track to graduate. And now let's start exploring. Let's use the pathway eligibility tool. Let's see the different programs, the different pathways that are out there. And then if we find something exciting, what are some of the jobs that are related? So a very helpful workflow for students that are when they receive that question of what are you doing after high school, and that anxiety wells up. This is a really cool process for students to start exploring based on themselves and the courses they're interested in high school, and then start building that awareness of what's out there in terms of occupations. What I'll share quickly now as well that's available is the opposite. If we call it the backwards plan. If your student has something in mind, something that they're interested in right now, I think of grade 10 Brad Booker. I wanted to be a marine biologist. And so I mean, it didn't work out that way for me, but if that was something that I was genuinely interested in, I could go ahead and put in marine biology, marine biologist into the occupation, and now I can find out a little bit more information. You can see I've hearted it in the past. I can see, okay, well, what does a marine biologist do? All of that information that I just shared about the advertising manager. But what's also helpful is this requirements area. So based on an occupation, what would I need to do to become a marine biologist? Okay, I would need to go to university. So some requirements, bachelor's degree in biology or related discipline. Okay, well, what are some potential programs? So if I'm genuinely interested in becoming a marine biologist, what would be some programs I could take? Well, okay, cool. Here's all of the institutions that provide um, uh, biology type courses and programs that I could get into. So I could then work backwards, start comparing institutions. But let's say, as an example, I'm going to click in on, you know what, this program at University of Guelph sounds right up my alley. Marine and freshwater biology with co-op as an optional program. What are the requirements for me to get into my plan? Okay, I can see that I'm missing advanced functions, and I'm missing two of the following senior level sciences. So this is a really helpful way for students. Now I'm going to go back to my high school plan that I've started, but I've got space in grade 12. I'm going to modify my plan to ensure that I've got advanced functions and make sure that I've got those senior level sciences. So really helpful for students to work backwards now and create a high school plan that is genuinely based on a pathway of interest. And now I didn't become a marine biologist. Actually, I did study botany, but I didn't become a marine biologist. But the skills that I gained out of it and the learning that I processed is really helpful. And I think that an important thing to note here is that going through a process like that backwards plan, it's going to build some hope and some confidence in our students that, you know what, I've got something in mind, and I'm going to strive to complete my courses and my program based on this aspiration. So that's the backwards plan in a nutshell. I'll just highlight a couple more features. Just aware of time here, but what I want to do is just share a couple of additional features in the student account, and then I'm going to flip over and share with the team here a family account and how you can support your student. Obviously, working together is awesome, but having a family account all on your own is it's a really cool way to support them. So I mentioned by doing my backwards plan, I went into the occupations. We've got a great database for students to explore occupations. Admittedly, I just went through one process here of students exploring a university pathway. In my blueprint, we've got all college, all workplace, as well as apprenticeship programs built in here as well. So it's really helpful for students and families to have access to all of that information to support that discovery and exploration. What I also want to highlight, and I've mentioned a few times, the concept of documenting skills. And Lisa and I, before the call, we were chatting about community service, community involvement hours, and that as a graduation requirement for students to track their hours, submit them, and that is an important requirement. It is something that students can track in my blueprint. But what's also important, and maybe even more important than just the number, is encouraging students to track their experiences and the skills that they've developed. And we've got some tools. I'm going to share just a couple of them here in a student account in my blueprint. The first one here is resumes and cover letters. And these are really helpful tools to support students, especially if they're looking for their first job. And in my blueprint, We know that this is likely the first time students are navigating things like a resume or like a cover letter. So we provide students with a lot of resources. So you can see here we've got need help, we've got example resumes. In this case, I've got a local greenhouse resume that I've started up already. In the resume tool, students have section by section information. And this is a great way to kind of chunk out what are all of the requirements in these types of career planning tools. So as an example here, I can see work experience. I've got a volunteer as well as some babysitting. But in this case, I can add all sorts of details about the types of tasks that I've completed. And what you'll notice in my blueprint when you're supporting your student is that everything, all of our features have this need help button. And this is a great thing to make the experience a little bit more user friendly for students in terms of completing their first resume. So I've got some examples, some samples of the types of things that students might want to put in here, which is really handy. And when students have added some content into their resume, they can preview it, they can export it as a Word document, a PDF, they can email it directly. So really helpful if you're working at home and thinking, hey, maybe it's time to take that resume into No Frills. This is an awesome place to start to get the resume tool engaged and working with your student. Similarly, the cover letter tool, is similar in that it's got the need help layout and the structured pieces to go through. But the last feature here from the student account that I'll highlight is portfolios. And this is something that more and more we're finding is necessary as students are applying to post-secondary institutions. So that OCAD program that I brought up, it as a requirement, students need to submit a portfolio of experience for scholarship opportunities. So I mentioned scholarships available earlier. Students now need to submit a portfolio of their most recent achievements. So it's no longer just a letter of introduction, and that's typically the case for things like applying to post secondaries, applying for scholarships, applying for jobs. But now the ask is that students demonstrate their skill development and the experiences that they've gained. Portfolios is a terrific way to do that, because this is a tool that allows students to put in those experiences and share them with others. So I've clicked into portfolios now. This is a tool within my blueprint that supports students in adding artifacts, adding evidence of learning and experience. Students can click in on add portfolio and they can create any number of portfolios. And the most likely scenario is that your student has created portfolios already as a part of their learning journey in Halton District School Board. But I'll click into one and just share really quickly what a portfolio could look like. So in this case, I've got a trades career exploration portfolio built, and this is where students, especially for something like trades career exploration, where so much of, I mean, it's really hard to articulate in a cover letter a job site that you worked on or a project that you completed. But if you can put in photos, videos, this is a great way for students to be able to demonstrate that experience and that learning. So in this case, I've got trades career exploration as my portfolio title. I've got some content in here. You can see that I've added goals in here, some written text, but I've also got some images. So I've got my plans here to build a chicken coop or install a window. Students can add in videos. So in this case, I've got a YouTube video linked in here, and you can see I've got some comments in here as well. So students can add reflections, and this is the type of thing that students can share directly with their educators, receive some feedback. So it's really easy for students to go ahead and add content. So they can click add box. So students who are working on their phones, taking photos of the things that they're particularly proud of, that's awesome. They can submit those pictures, those videos, those files. And as the last part, I mentioned about the sharing component. So what we tend to see now as we're reviewing things like scholarship applications, maybe this will be a bit of an aside, but I'm going to throw it out there for families that I mentioned my blueprints got a ton of those scholarships, and in reviewing a lot of those scholarships, sometimes students will submit a really great letter of introduction, and what often happens is the review committee will think, hey, you know what, this is so well written, I wonder if it's AI. And in it goes to the AI detector and see what the feedback comes out with. What you what you can't use AI for is actually demonstrating the things that you have done. And that's why portfolios are so powerful, is to be able to genuinely show the experiences and the skills that you've developed to employers and scholarship application committees or post-secondary. So in sharing, what students can do is click on this share button at the top and generate a shareable URL. They can title it anything they want. They can title it, maybe this would be grade 10 trades exploration, and generate a link. And what's really cool about that link is that they can put it anywhere. So they can share that in a cover letter, they could share it in an application, and it becomes a website essentially of the students' skills and experiences. So all of our students are engaging in community involvement hours. What a great way for students to not only document their hours of experience, but take some photos and have some reflections of the types of transferable skills that they were working on in those experiences. And this is impactful because students will be able to share it with potential employers or post-secondary. One last thing that I'll note here while I'm in the student account is that all Halton District School Board students, they're working in myBlueprint all the time. Our logins are immense, in the hundreds of thousands already since September. So your student is likely to be very familiar with myBlueprint, and the work that they're doing in myBlueprint is really important and impactful. And so often we get the question, well, what happens when I graduate? So do I lose all of that? And this, as a former educator, I would have students come to me and say, "Oh, Mr. Booker, I did this awesome resume in myBlueprint, but I graduated and I can't get back in there." All of the content that students have in myBlueprint is available to them even after graduation. So this is a really cool thing to note for your student, and to kind of emphasize the importance of the work that they're doing in here now, is that in April of this year, we send out a link to all grade 12 students and say, hey, we see you're in grade 12. If you're graduating next year, you can update your account settings to ensure that you can continue to access your account even after graduation. All they need to do is put in a personal email, and we just change over their account settings in the new year. So really helpful for students to be able to access all of this content in perpetuity. So I wanted to mention that just as an aside for, hey, when students are leaving and they're going to their HDSB username and password will expire, but their access to myBlueprint lives on. So lastly, I want to save some time for questions. So the last piece that I want to highlight is the family connection, and how, as a parent caregiver, you can access an account as well. The main way that I'll share for you to have an account all on your own is if you're working with your student, and maybe you got this queued up over the winter break here. Maybe you're walking through, sharing some ideas about course selection, exploring courses together. In the very top, you click on the student initials here, and there's this button here that says My Links. And what you can do with My Links is you can link account access to a parent, guardian, caregiver. So what you could do is you could put in your name, your email address, and this will send off a link. You'll receive an email saying that your student has shared account access as a family member, and you can click in. It will prompt you to create an account, and it will link your account with your student. And so that is an awesome way to support them. Just in here, account settings, My Links, and it will link that account. What I'm going to do is I'm going to head out and I'm going to log in as a student, or sorry, as a family account here now, and I'll just share with you what it looks like from the family perspective. I swear I remember my password. All right. So I'm in here now as a parent guardian account, and this is the overview that you will receive when you link your account with your student. So it's a really cool way to kind of have that snapshot of what your student is up to. So I'll just highlight a couple of features from your family account here now. The first one is up here in the very top corner. You'll see your name and your status as parent guardian. But this student view button, what this allows you to do is have a demo account all on your own. So instead of having to maybe look over your student's shoulder, you can head into this student view, and this allows you to have like a full sandbox to play around with all of the features. So if independently you wanted to check out some things like, hey, well, what's the tuition cost of that program, and what's the residence fee, those types of things, you can head in here and you can check out all of these things as well. So your student view is fully accessible, allows you to explore independent of your student. You can have linked access to more than one student as well. So if you've got several children in grade 7 through 12, not a problem. You can link access to more than one. So I can see I've got several students. I can click in. I can see an overview of what my student's up to. A couple of things that to note here as well. I'm having a look at Sam's account. I can click in on the Sam's overview and I get to have a look at all sorts of cool things here. So I can see Sam's got a portfolio of skills for work. I can click in and view this portfolio. I can see the goals that they've set, the occupations they've favorited. I can also support them with the resume and cover letter here as well. So really cool for me as a parent to be able to see, okay, what's the snapshot, what's the overview, but then I can also use this little eyeball icon and I can click in and have a look directly at Sam's account. So if we're working together and we wanted to have a look at the courses that they're selecting, no problem. I can click on that eyeball icon, have a look at their high school plan, and see what's going on. What's also cool is I get a kind of like a social media feed of all of the content that my student is up to. So I can see that they've added some different goals in here, some self reflection. I can even comment on items here as well. So as parent guardian, I can put something in here about, hey. Here's a personal introduction that my child's put in here, a favorited occupation. Really cool to be able to access that information, have a look at it, and start exploring and supporting them in kind of what those next steps might look like, maybe some reflection prompts for the student as well. So that's a very fast overview of the family account. And what I'll do is I'll kick back into my slides here for a sec, and then we'll have a quick overview as well of any questions that have come in. So let me just cue this right back up, and then we'll kind of go through those questions. Awesome. So in terms of next steps, I strongly encourage folks on the call here to create that family account. The best way to do it is to link access from your student account, and then start exploring the different features that are available. Use your student view or support your student account directly. I do have some resources, and I'm not too sure how we can share these out, but I'm sure Lisa and I will be able to figure out a route to get this information to you. One of the pieces that I'll share as a follow-up here is a really handy guide specific to parents, caregivers, and it has a nice detailed 2-pager on what I shared here tonight. The forwards plan, map out high school, start exploring, versus the backwards plan of, hey, I want to be a registered nurse. Cool. What are the programs available? How do I get this into my high school plan today? So this is a nice takeaway resource that you can bring back, and if you've got neighbors or friends that you're connecting with, you can share this with them as well as a follow up. But I'll stop sharing my screen, and then Lisa and I we can address some of the questions that have come in through the sheet there.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brad. I have been using myBlueprint for well over a decade. And when I hear you talk about it, I just continue to be wowed and reminded by the breadth of features available in it. It is pretty impressive. So thank you so much for walking us through all of that. That's fantastic. I wanted to put up the bit.ly as well as the QR code again for families and some students as well who may be watching that may have questions, so that you have access to that to be able to submit your questions. And we do have a number of questions that have come in. So I'm going to just pull them up here and ask some of them of Brad, and I'll be able to ask some of them as well, depending on what they're about. We had a grade 8 student who is heading into grade 9 next year, asking about course selection and when they can expect to be able to do that. So just wanted to let you know, in our board, and it can vary a little bit from board to board, depending on the school, it would likely start either this month in December, but if not December, definitely in January. So our grade 8 students typically complete their course selection by the end of January. Just so you know, that's coming up if you haven't heard anything about it quite yet. Although I think most of our grade 8s have. There was also a question which Brad, I think, addressed, and that is that in our board, as our families will know, we do have a new policy where students will submit up to 40 hours of community involvement to their guidance office. But beyond that, they're encouraged to continue to track any additional hours, either through a physical portfolio or through the use of myBlueprint. And Brad, I think you spoke really well to how a portfolio could help to serve that purpose. Did you want to say anything more about that?
No, I think that that's the best route there is
Yeah,
documenting those hours, and even just from a personal accountability stance, it's great to submit those hours, but then for your own record keeping, and even within the portfolio tool, you could put in things like Excel docs and things like that if you wanted to have almost like a spreadsheet of the hours that you've accumulated, the dates, the types of skills that you worked on. That's an awesome way just to be able to track that personally.
absolutely. And of course, there's such benefit to continuing beyond 40 hours for scholarships, awards, certainly for students to add to their resume, right? Lots of opportunities that come up that want to know about how students are contributing in their community. So definitely worth exploring how to capture all of that in a way that works well for the student. Yeah. Sorry, were you going to say something, Brad?
Yeah, well, I was just going to go on to the next question here,
Go for it.
and I know that there's a few questions that just came in, and I know that we've got some more up at the top, but I feel too that I wanted to get to the questions, and so I didn't. I shared how to create a family account by linking it from your student account, but you can also create an account on your own. And maybe if it's okay, maybe I'll just share 30 seconds and I'll just go through what that process looks like here very quickly for the group, because I just saw that there were a few last questions came in with the same sort of theme there about, well, how do I do that? So let me just I'll share this and provide a quick overview of, hey, if I don't want to link it necessarily right off the bat, how could I get in there and create that family account? So what I've done in my browser here is I typed in myblueprint.ca and I put /Halton. And what that will do is it'll take you to the Halton landing page where your student would typically access their account. They can just click school login and they can log in using their HDSB credentials. But what you can do as a family member who doesn't have an account yet, you can select this sign up. So myblueprint.ca/Halton and then select sign up, and then you will select the school that your student is at. So whichever secondary school, or if your student is in grade 8, you can select the elementary. But chances are you'll be selecting well, not a summer school, but you'll be selecting a secondary school from this drop down list, and then create account, and then you will select family advisor. You'll be prompted to add in a personal email address, create a password, and then you'll be all set, ready to go for your account. The next time you go to log in, you can just put in your email address and your password. So again, it was myblueprint.ca/Halton and then sign up. So that's the best route to create an account there. But I'll stop sharing and we'll go back to the order of questions here.
Perfect. No, that's great. Thanks for clarifying. Related to that, Brad, I see there's a question about when my son turns 18, can we still see his account or profile? So if, let's say, a student, allows a parent or guardian to link, does something change when the student turns 18?
No, that's an excellent question. That is that's cool thinking. I like where they're coming from. No, you'll still be able to access that so long as you've linked that account.
Great, thank you. Lots of great questions coming in. So thank you everybody for reaching out about this. There's a question as well about, will my blueprint records, so students, let's say, doing goal setting or the portfolios they build or the things that they favorite, would that in any way influence a student's chances of getting into college or university? In other words, do the colleges and universities see that?
No, not directly. So no, they won't be able to share like their My Blueprint account with any institutions. However, I would say that the skills that the student has put in and being able to reflect and goal setting, that is a huge leg up when it comes to creating those applications. So although the post-secondary institutions will not interact with the student profile, it's really great for students to have that documentation over time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a great place for students to play around and try out different plans and see what fits. And I remember working with one student as a guidance counselor who ended up with so many different pathways and plans that they mapped out, just sort of experimenting to see what the right fit was, and where they thought they were going to be in grade 9 was very different by the time they graduated. So it is a great place to kind of play around in the sandbox and see what all the options end up being.
Totally, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. There is also a question about, this is a great one. So recognizing that myBlueprint pulls data for post-secondary institutions Canada-wide, how up to date are things like the admission averages, the tuition cost, all of those? Are those in real time as it changes with the institutions, or is there a delay?
That's a good follow-up question there. So there would be a delay, but it would be slight. So any tuition amounts, any prerequisites or entrance requirements are all very up to date. And I say this speaking as a former school administrator. I would rely on myBlueprint often over institution resources. So myBlueprint is very up to date. You can rely on the numbers that are in there.
Great. Thank you. We had a couple of questions about students asking about some of our regional programs, like our Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program, our Specialist High Skills Major Program, dual credit. So as Brad had highlighted, there is that regional program planner feature for HDSB students where they can indicate their interest in one of those programs. Perfect. This is excellent. As I'm talking, you're bringing it up. I love it. Thanks, Brad. Feel free if you want to say anything more about this.
Yeah, so this is built right into the student high school plan. So it's a really excellent resource. I did see that there were a few questions about this, about SHSM and about OYAP. So again, this is for any student in Halton District School Board. This is what your high school plan will look like. Very similar to the one I shared in the demo. But as you can see, I've got course selection open, and I've got this addition of the regional programs box here. So clicking in and learning more, this is where you can find out, okay, what is SHSM all about? What is OYAP? And now I can start looking based on my school, what programs are available to me in either SHSM, dual credit, OYAP, and again, I can click in and find out more information. What's really helpful too is as students are building out a plan, what we can see here for this construction SHSM is the actual requirements side by side with the courses that I have in my plan. So this is really cool, especially if you're a grade 10 student planning courses for grade 11, chances are that a lot of the requirements you're going to naturally fulfill. So it's a really exciting way to realize, man, holy smokes, I'm almost there. I've got a number of the requirements already met. And then as a last step for all of the programs that you'll find here, you can indicate interest, and this will send a notification off to the staff member, the educator responsible for this program, that on this date and time, this student in this grade indicated interest in the construction SHSM, and then that educator can follow up with you with the necessary program applications and registration forms.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for walking us through that, Brad. And I'll just mention in the Halton District School Board, students absolutely can indicate interest in programs that are offered within their high school, but they can also indicate interest in programs outside of their high school. The way that it works for transportation in our board is that if a student lives in a region, let's say Oakville, they will have transportation provided to other regional programs within Oakville. If they were interested in going to, let's say, a program in Milton, they would be responsible for their own transportation to be able to attend that school, to go to that program. We're actually really unique in the province of Ontario in that we do allow students to be able to go to different schools, recognizing that not every school can offer every program that exists. So it really builds in that flexibility and allows students to create a pathway plan and to access programs that are really of interest to them. A student also asked us about, can you do co-op in another school? Typically, you wouldn't just go to another school to access co-op because co-op is available in every secondary school in the Halton District School Board. But if that co-op was part of a SHSM or an OYAP program in another school, yes, it's possible you could do the co-op program with that other school. And again, the guidance counselor at your school, as well as at the receiving school, would work with you to help figure out a plan that makes the most sense for you around that. So hopefully we answered that for that family. I'm just looking to see.
I got the next one queued up here. So I'll package a couple together. One question is, what are the advantages of a parents having their own myBlueprint account? Excellent question, because in reality, you could just be working with your student. Your student could log into myBlueprint. You guys could be sitting side by side working on it together. That's totally cool. Advantage of creating your own account is especially if you have multiple children, it's great to be able to kind of like flip between and see what what students are up to, and be able to head into their account, have a look. And then the other main advantage is being able to have your own account. So you can have that student view, you can play around with things independent of your student, and that's kind of a helpful resource as well. And then as a follow-up question to that, there was one about do parents have access to the portal to see child's progress and plan, and in brackets read only? And that is correct. It's read only access. So if I'm in a parent account and I head into my student's account, my child's account, I can see the plan, but I can't make any changes.
So Brad, I really want to thank you so much for your time tonight. It was fantastic. And I wanted
absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you, Brad. And I just wanted to remind families as well of the wide variety of resources that we do offer for students around all things related to pathway planning, everything from our guide to secondary for our students who are transitioning to high school, as well as our guide to post-secondary, which is a brand new resource that has been developed just this past fall, outlining all the post-secondary pathways and many of the different features that families are interested in learning more about. Our transition to post-secondary webpage has videos and resources, and we had some questions about scholarships and finding out information about that. I know Brad talked about some of the myBlueprint scholarships. We have an HDSB scholarships page, and there's lots of different resources there to access all the funding opportunities. Our secondary school webpage has information, and of course, myblueprint.ca/Halton. And all the staff that are working with your students to support their success are all instrumental resources as well. They really are. I can't stress that enough. These individuals are there working with your students every day and are there to help guide them and really help open the doors to all the options that exist for them. So please, if you're not well connected to your school guidance department or special education resource team, if your student is accessing those services, student success, please feel free to reach out at any time. This really is a community effort that's required to help support our students in pathway planning, and you really play an instrumental part of that. So again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in tonight. We will post the recording on the myBlueprint page, as well as some of the really helpful guides and tools that Brad referred to tonight too. We hope you join us for future sessions. There'll be another one being shared out in the new year with On Transfer. So thanks again. We wish you all a fantastic evening.